Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
My dog went flying through the air over the tree. I don't know how it did it.
Okay.
There's two of them across the creek at the big rocks.
A lot to do on the show. Ron Morehead, who is a author, adventurer, and renowned researcher, Bigfoot researcher, is with us, as well as Scott Nelson, who is, believe it or not, a crypto-linguist. This guy has a lot of experience with the U.S. Navy. Went to the U.S. Navy's cryptologic voice transcription school, Russian and Spanish, and on and on and on. Knows about language and says that's what we're hearing here is language, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm not sure how the two of you actually came together, but I will ask this. When you first heard these sounds that Ron had come up with, did you immediately hear coherence in them, or did you go, come on, or let me listen more closely, or what was your reaction?
Well, when I first stumbled upon them with my son, and we were just kind of Googling information for a report he had to do, and I stumbled upon these sounds on a website, and upon the first run through, I heard something that I had to hear again, so I went back over it, and I went back over it, and I went back over it, and my son finally said, "Dad, snap out of it. You know, what are you doing?" I said, "Stephen, this is not a human being on these tapes, yet they are speaking a language." And my son said, "What are you talking about, Dad? It sounds like coyotes or apes fighting."
Right.
I said, "I know it does, son, but there's language here. What you have to do in order to hear it is slow it down like Dad used to do in the Navy." So I said, "We've got to get a hold of these tapes." So through a little bit of detective work, I got a hold of Ron, and within several days, Ron had all three of the tapes to me.
And you listened to them for how long before you began to realize that you were actually hearing a language?
Oh, I could tell right away.
Really?
I could tell right away. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I think it was probably because of how many hundreds into the thousands of hours I spent listening to the human voice on tape, speeding the tapes up, slowing them down.
Sure.
Just hearing, that's why I immediately recognized, even with the rapid delivery that these vocalizations are given us, I could tell that if you slowed them down, you would hear articulated phonemes exactly like humans do.
All right. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, but the next question for you is, if you recognize it as a language, can you then give meaning to what we're going to hear?
No. Not
yet.
Not in a translation. We're way ahead of ourselves.
I would imagine. Okay, Given's got more examples, or even many examples of sounds.
Yes.
Would that give you the key you need, or the mass you need to decipher?
We would hope. Yes, we would hope that eventually we would be able to decipher. But our greatest hope would be to actually eventually sit down and have a conversation, because that's really the only way to truly verify the meaning of what we would call words, sentences, etc., is to sit down with the speaker and to verify the meanings of each and every morpheme. So, right. Yeah, we're way ahead of ourselves there.
I would assume
yes, you would have to. You would have.
I, with some other hunters, encountered these creatures in a remote area of the Sierras, and they started interacting with us, and we were fortunate enough to record their vocalizations, and thus the Sierra sounds, which a lot of people have heard. They've been studied, and anyway, it got me involved in it, and ever since then I've been trying to figure out what it was all about and what giants are all about, because these things are huge.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me ask this. Were you actually looking for Bigfoot?
No, I wasn't. No, not at all. One of the hunters, original hunters up there, there's 6 of us involved that had this thing going on, and off the mountain, he wouldn't go back, and that's how I got involved, actually, because the wives were worried because the men hadn't came back, and they heard the story of what was going on up there, and they wanted him to go back and see if guys were okay, because we didn't know what was dealing with. They didn't know what they was dealing with. So he invited me to go with him. I was a friend of the family's anyway, so I got up there, and that kind of got me part of the group. That was 71, and so that's when I seen my first huge track, and that's when I got involved. Our Sierra camp, 8 miles in the wilderness of the Sierra Nevada mountains. We were recording these creatures. It was pretty intimidating to start with there, and as you might have guessed, when these things are pretty close to us too, right outside our shelter quite often. And anyway,
if I heard that was clear, and it was, plenty ambiguous, I guess, but very, very clear, and it sounded like it was very, very close, and if I was there recording that, it would scare the hell out of me.
Well, that's how I got involved. One of the guys wouldn't go back up there.
Don't blame him.
He wouldn't go back by himself, I should say, and he hadn't been back since that I know of.
Don't blame him.
Pretty frightening. Very religious man. He didn't know where to put this with his religious structure, because it just didn't fit in his paradigm. But
I don't have much of a religious structure, and I don't know where to put it, and I'd be running. So, I am kind of. First of all, what were we hearing? Is it one Bigfoot, or is it two of them, or what?
Well, we believe it was two, but let Scott jump in on this one.
Okay, Scott, that was a lot to decipher.
Oh, yeah, and like I said before, we're far from actually deciphering it or translating it, but what we can do with that is point out the characteristics of language that are evident in those utterances. And what you have there is obviously a male. And when you slow it down, you can really hear it. You don't have to be a PhD in linguistics specialist to hear the language.
All right, that is not slowed down. I'm sorry to interrupt. That is regular speed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But when you slow it down, especially, I mean, if you listen to it long enough, even the layman can hear that you have a female and a male having discourse, conversational turns where they take turns in speaking to each other.
I agree.
Yeah, so you listen to it enough, you can hear it even at real time. You don't have to slow it down. But slowing it down makes it very evident to anybody that's ever sat through our presentation and listened to it, walks away knowing that they're listening to a language.
I've got to agree. It sounded like a language to me.
By the way, years ago we had a human sound expert listen to it, a very qualified person, and she said the female won that argument. Just to throw that out.
So in other words, the worlds are similar in some ways.
Yes, they are.
We're going to listen to this again, and Scott, as we do listen again, what should we be listening for to try and make a little sense out of this? I mean, not that we'll understand it, but I mean, is it a fight?
It sounds like that to us. It sounds like that they're at least in a higher state of agitation. But then again, the more you listen to it, the more it begins to sound like a married couple.
During
just in a regular conversation.
For a married couple, yes. You can hear a human say something.
That was Warren Johnson, who was basically the oracle up there for us until he passed away, or unless he wasn't there and I was, then I would be the one that would call out to them or try to entice them. We at first we were intimidated by it because of the sounds are pretty intimidating. But after a while, you realize they weren't going to break through the shelter at us, and they knew we wasn't going to shoot at them. We all had guns. We're hunters, a hunting camp. And so that was Warren Johnson, and he was just yelling out at them.
Ron, so let us move on to yet another recording, and I guess, were most of these recorded at the same place, or these are all different?
All these were recorded at the very same camp. Some of them were months apart, some were years apart. This went on from 71 through 76.
Interesting. What about, is it harder to get these kind of sounds in the modern day than it was then?
Oh, yes. It seems like it is. At least it has been for me. I really sometimes go up there without a recorder. I want to find out more about them now, and because I think they are tuned into human exploitation, I try to just go up there simple, let them create the action if there's going to be any. You can't be the antagonistic up there. You got to let them be the aggressor. If they're going to interact with you, they will. And if they're not, they seem like they choose who they want to interact with. So getting more sounds has just been very difficult. But I know they're there.
All right. Well, I'm going to play this next one, and then again we'll talk about it and come back and then perhaps play it yet again. Here we go. I think. very different. I don't know where to start. What do you think we were hearing there, Scott?
Can we chime in on that?
Yeah, sure. Anybody, anytime. I don't care.
I think, I give you that one because it sounds like they've got rhythm. The thing was really cold. It was a cold night, very cold. And he might have just been trying to stay warm. I don't know what the deal was. I thought I'd give you that one just because it's, I don't know what he was trying to do. Well, I don't know if you know, Scott. Right, have you analyzed that one at all?
All right, wait.
Was your tape, Ron?
Wait, before you start.
Okay.
That sound that we heard that was like, or clicking, or I can't duplicate the sound, but was that a sound produced by the creature, or was he banging on something?
I don't know. We didn't see him doing whatever he was doing. He was slapping, I think he was slapping on himself, or he might be slapping on a rock. I don't know.
No, I don't think that was audible. That was not auditory. I don't think he was not producing that with his auditory tract.
Oh, okay. So you think that might have been a slap?
That's what I think.
Clacking of rocks or something besides a vocalization.
For Scott.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Scott, what is this that in your mind, after all your study, absolutely makes this a language? What parts of it say this is a language?
Well, first off, the Morehead tapes display virtually every characteristic of human language that there is. The most important being, again, the conversational turns between two creatures, taking turns, speaking to each other back and forth, the repeating of morphemes, or what we might call syllables or minimal words.
Right.
Between the two of them, exactly the way humans do.
Right, I heard it in that first recording without question.
Absolutely. Yep.
Is that
there's just too many characteristics of language evident in the tapes that it's undeniable. It's undeniable anymore.
All right. One question for you, Scott, is how do you know these tapes are real? And actually, have you been there when they were recorded, or
no?
Then how do you know they're real?
Well, that's one of the things. That was one of the three conclusions I came to immediately upon hearing it. That's what blew me away so quickly. Is that I spent a whole career listening to the human voice on tape, and I had been trained in every method of deception possible.
Right.
I was a Russian analyst, so and the Russians were the best during the Cold War. The Russians were the best, and I was trained in every deceptive method that the Russians used. And when I first heard these, my first impression was that even the Russians could not have faked these, especially not in 1974.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't know that they'd already been, analyzed by a sound expert, Dr. Curlin from the University of Wyoming, and he had already proven that the tapes could not have been faked.
There are, I believe, right. There are, I believe, certain ways to prove if something has been either created with a program or modified with a program.
Absolutely correct.
Whether it's an original recording or not. So right. Yeah, I'll buy that. All right, let's move on to number 3. And again, recorded roughly in the same place or what?
Same place. Uh-huh.
Same place. Number 3. Here we go. I think. Pretty cool. Very different. Very cool. So that was kind of almost a whistle?
It was a whistle. Yeah, that was one of the first exchanges we actually had. That was Warren Johnson whistling back to it. We found out that whistling, actually, they do is done through the vocal cavity. It wasn't done through the lips like we normally whistle. So that was kind of unique. That's why I sent you that one. And anyway, it was just one of the first exchanges we actually had, which I recorded. And I thought,
how do I know the difference between the Bigfoot whistle and, did you say Warren?
Warren Johnson, yeah, he's the one that whistled. Well, I can hear it. I don't know if you can. It's kind of a background whistle back, but it sounds like a human whistle.
That's why I'm playing them twice. Because
or through the vocal cavity, according to Dr. Curlin.
Gotcha. Again, here it comes again, and that's why, because I want you to listen to what's Warren and what's Bigfoot. Here we go.
Come on now.
Okay, that time I could go Warren, Bigfoot, easily.
Yep.
Got it. Got it. So is whistling, it's a form of communication, obviously, but I mean, it's part of their language, Scott?
Well, we don't know yet. It's certainly not language articulated in the same way that humans do, which most of their utterances are. But we don't know. I mean, certainly in humans communicate with whistles as well. But
yes, they do.
Not linguistically. I mean, not articulated, by the same apparatus that we do.
Yes, yeah. We do communicate with whistles, it's true.
Sure.
They seem to have a very, very flexible vocal cavity, a vocal range. Dr. Curlin's report showed their range. They can go above, in, and below what a human can do, which gives the suggestion they can mimic almost any forest animal if they wanted to. And I know I've heard an 800-pound owl up there one time, and I never saw an 800-pound owl.
Now, Sasquatch lives at least, I don't want to say near humans, but frequently around humans. And so you have to wonder if their language, such as it is, has been affected in any way by what they've heard from human beings.
You want me to take that, Ron?
Yeah, you're the expert on that.
We'd have to assume that they are influenced by other languages the same way that humans are. And especially because virtually all Bigfoot researchers believe that they are so observant and so elusive that they are able to hide. They could keep themselves hidden and be very observant of our languages, and it would serve them very well to know specific words that humans use,
right? Like
food and guns,
right?
And hunt or whatever. You would think that they would make it their business to figure out what we mean by specific morpheme streams.
Do you think, going back to Ron for a second, Ron, that these are creatures that were here long before man, or do you think these are creatures that have always been, I don't know how to ask the question. How long have they been around?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Good answer. If you don't know, say I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's better. Is there any indication that they are getting either closer to contact with humans or moving away from it more and more?
They're multiplying. I'm quite sure of that. They don't need protection like a lot of people think. We got to kill one so you can protect them. That's ridiculous. But they are multiplying. There are small ones being seen. What they are and why they're here, because they still stay hidden from man. They don't come out and expose themselves to humans unless it's by accident.
Right.
They're bigger, stronger, very stealthy. They're cognizant beings, and at least the ones I dealt with are cognizant, and that tells me something. They have language. Why are they here? And what are they doing? Why are they holding back? If they could trust anybody, they should be able to trust me. I've never threatened them. I've been up there, and had them around me, and yet they won't come out and shake my hand or tell me more about them so I can discuss this with the world like I'm doing now. I just want to know more, and I think I'm learning more as I go. I hope to, anyway. That's right.